Alrighty, YouTube, Niner Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. So I wanted to make another video to kind of give you guys insight on the full details of this Deebo Samuel trade. Um, really just wanted to get a video up on my immediate reaction to Deebo being traded more than anything. So I didn't really go too much in depth in my last video. But again, for those of you who are only watching this video and didn't catch my last video, the 49ers reached an agreement to trade Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders. In return, they get a 5th-round pick. And Deebo is set to make $17.5 million in 2025. And the good news in this situation, the Washington Commanders are taking on the remainder of Deebo's contract and will pay his full $17.55 million salary for the 2025 season. That's big for the 49ers. For them to take on that contract is huge. That really helps the 49ers trying to save against the cap. Now, even though the 49ers, they're going to be taking on they're taking on that $30+ million cap hit with trading him. I would have still elected the 49ers to release Deebo instead, personally. But I think they felt as if, with the Commanders taking on the remainder of his salary plus getting a 5th-round pick in return, they probably thought that was the better option. And a lot of people I see are shocked that the Niners only got a 5th-round pick in return. I don't know why anybody's shocked about that. Deebo's not the player he once used to be, and the 49ers were always going to get an all-time low compensation in return based off of his career low season and his terrible season last year. So I'm confused as to why everybody's shocked about this. However, so again, 5th-round pick in return to the 49ers for Deebo, and the Commanders are taking on the full $17.5 million salary for Deebo in 2025. Another report came out from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. This one's very interesting, and I made a video about this about a week ago. But the Commanders almost threw in Jonathan Allen, and he was a part of the Deebo Samuel trade discussion between the both teams, but the Niners elected to not trade for him and instead save cap and just only get a 5th-round pick in return. So Jonathan Allen could have been traded to the 49ers. I'm actually very glad that didn't happen because, number one, he's too old for the 49ers. They need to get younger, and they were going to have to take on his salary for next season. So I am glad that they didn't follow through with including Jonathan Allen in that trade deal or in the trade. But yeah, man, I'm still trying to process it. I don't think it's processed yet. I mean, obviously, it was all like Deebo being traded was the inevitable, but it's still shocking to me how quick it happened. Because again, and here's another thing that I kind of want to make a comment on. Matthew Berry made a video yesterday about the Texans and the Commanders being the teams with the most significant interest. I said in that video, I read a report on Twitter from Matthew Berry that said that Deebo was going to be traded within the next 48 hours. He said that Deebo was not going to be released and he will officially be traded in the next 48 hours. Matthew Berry was firm on that report. He put it out there, and there's a reason he did, because he was exactly right. Deebo was traded actually, I think, less than 24 hours after he put that tweet up. So he was spot on with that report about Deebo being traded in the next 48 hours. Again, that report came out yesterday, but he was spot on. The Niners traded Deebo like 18, 19 hours later. So now the biggest question is, following the Deebo Samuel trade, knowing that he is officially gone, will the 49ers trade Brandon Ayuk? Because that's kind of starting to heat up, and I'm going to make a video about the whole Brandon Ayuk situation and what's going on after this video. So stay tuned for that. I got a couple more videos coming out tonight that I want to talk about. But yeah, man, I mean, again, like I said in my last video, I'll never forget the 2021 season Deebo had with the Niners. That was something special. But it just got to a point where he wasn't producing. The 49ers are really changing their mindset on certain players that just aren't producing and that are getting paid a lot of money. I think the 49ers are just fed up with dishing out big money to players that aren't producing like they should be. Aaron Banks is going to be gone. They're not going to re-sign him. Deebo Samuel, that whole situation is over and done with him going to the Commanders. Javon Hargrave is another guy that they're going to be releasing that's being paid massive money, and he's not producing. So I like this new mindset here going into the 2025 offseason. It's simple, man. If you're getting paid big money and you're not producing, or you continuously are getting injured and you're injury prone, good riddance. And that's why I think things are starting to heat up with the potential Brandon Ayuk trade, which I'll dive into all of that again following this video. But 5th round pick, my whole thoughts on the compensation in return, to be honest, I think it's a win for both teams. I think the Commanders will get somebody that can be very versatile in their system. However, Deebo, I don't think he's going to be that big of an impact to the Commanders. A lot of people are blowing this thing up and acting like the Commanders just fleeced the 49ers and that they're getting a massive player. Deebo's not the player he once used to be. I got news for you. Commanders fans, he's not the 2021 Deebo. He's going to be a decent player for your team, but he's not going to be a massive impact like you guys think he will be. So big win for both teams. For the again, with the compensation that the Niners got in return, I feel like they maybe could have gotten a little more. But at the same time, I knew that a 5th round pick was probably going to be what the 49ers are going to get in return at best. So I'm not surprised that it was a 5th round pick. It's crazy to me, though, that 3 years ago, the Niners probably could have got a late 1st round pick. There were talks going into, I believe, the 2022 draft or the 21 draft that Deebo could be traded. I believe it was going into the 2022 draft, but it was being reported that Deebo could be traded for the 11th overall pick in the draft, I believe is what it was, or the 10th pick in the draft. It was whatever the Jets had that year. But man, big time news on this Saturday night for the 49ers, for the Commanders. Obviously, I wish Deebo nothing but the best. Maybe Adam Peters and that coaching staff can kind of get his conditioning back in check and maybe get him back to the player he once used to be. I definitely think he still has football left. He's just never going to be what he once was. And the 49ers were lucky to have him. But I'm sure the Commanders will use him in the screen pass plays, and I'm sure he'll be used in the jet sweeps and things like that. And I think he'll be a good player for the Commanders. He's just not going to be this massive difference maker that everybody expects him to be. Like, people need to wake up, man. Deebo's not the guy that he used to be. And I'm sure a change of scenery will help his motivation in getting back in shape and trying to get back to the player that he used to be. However, the Commanders have other weapons as well. So again, my opinion, big win for both teams. I'm glad that this whole thing's finally over and we can move on. But it happened pretty quick. Just under a month ago, 3 weeks ago is when the news broke that the 49ers would be exploring the trade. And then an hour later, it's reported that Deebo actually requested a trade during his exit meeting. And then the report comes out that the 49ers will be granting him permission to seek a trade. And then it finally gets to the point where there's 4 teams in the mix: the Broncos, the Commanders, the Texans, and I believe it was the Steelers were the other team that were potentially involved. But he ends up going to the Washington Commanders. That was kind of expected too. I made a video yesterday about the Texans and the Commanders being the most aggressive suitors for Deebo, so not shocked whatsoever. He's going to the Commanders. It kind of does suck. I would have much rather traded him to a team like the Denver Broncos, probably even the Texans. It sucks that he's on an NFC contender that the 49ers might face next season. That would be fireworks. But at the end of the day, though, man, again, win-win for both teams. The Niners, get the 5th-round pick in return, and the Commanders are taking on that $17.5 million salary for next year. So they're taking on all of that, which is big news for the 49ers. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know your guys' thoughts on Jonathan Allen, his name brought up in the deal. Again, he was about to be traded with Deebo Samuel, or in the Deebo Samuel trade. So the Niners could have potentially got Jonathan Allen in return. But I'm glad that they didn't go through on that. They elected to save towards the cap, and they didn't get somebody that was going to be almost 30. I think he was going to be 33 years old. So they need to get younger. Stop trading for these older guys. I'm glad that the Niners are kind of shifting their focus to becoming more of a younger team. That's what they need to do. The team's getting older. They're one of the oldest teams in football. And clearly, the core players, not the core players, but the roster that you had, over the past 4 or 5 years wasn't going to win you a Super Bowl. So it's time to change it up, and that's what the 49ers are doing. It's a good step in the right direction for the 49ers. This is one of the better moves that the 49ers have made all offseason. So I really hope that they, and I know they're going to be aggressive in free agency. They're going to, obviously draft accordingly and whatnot. But this is a good step in the right direction for the Niners. Now I think it's probably safe to say that they will be targeting a wide receiver in free agency. There has been a report out there that they will be targeting offensive linemen, cornerbacks, and wide receivers in free agency. I believe that report was coming from Tim Kawakami or Tony Pauline. I think it was Tony Pauline. One of the two said that they're going to be targeting wide receivers, corners, and offensive linemen in free agency. So I would definitely expect them to get a guy like a Rondale Moore or a Darius Slayton or somebody that can come in and kind of be, in a way, the player that Deebo was. I think Rondale Moore is a perfect fit. But they're definitely going to need to sign another wide receiver with this trade. So now, the core wide receiver group currently stands as Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and then Jacob Cowing and the rest of the unit. But again, they're definitely going to need to bring some veteran guy in to the receiver room. I think they will do that. They're probably going to bring in a couple guys to kind of fill that void and get more depth there at wide receiver. Wouldn't be shocked if they even took a guy in the draft, a wide receiver in the draft. So those are the full details of the Deebo Samuel trade. Still processing. The 49ers are truly entering a new era. They're going to, look to build an offense around Purdy and go from there. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think of the Jonathan Allen situation, of him almost coming to the 49ers. What your guys' thoughts are on the compensation the 49ers gave up. And obviously, with that being said, as always, go Niners. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay tuned. I got a couple more videos coming after this. I want to talk about the Brandon Ayuk situation and things like that. But yeah, as always, go Niners. I'll see you guys in the next one.